In the chronicles of the Wild West, one name looms large, conjuring both fear and fascination: Johnny Ringo. Legends depict him as a notorious gunslinger, a pivotal figure in the era of outlaws. And to this day, only adding to the mystique of Johnny Ringo is the fact that mystery surrounds his own death, a death as legendary as his mythic life. Join us as we embark on a thrilling journey through the life of this mysterious figure, separating fact from fiction and uncovering the truth that is sure to send chills down your spine. The pre-outlaw days of Johnny Ringo. Johnny Ringo, born to Martin and Mary Peters Ringo, had roots tracing back to Dutch ancestry. He entered the world in what would later become the quaint town of Greens Fork, located in Clay Township, Wayne County, Indiana. However, in 1856, his family made the decision to relocate to Liberty, Missouri, seeking new opportunities and a fresh start. Interestingly, Ringo had a familial connection to the infamous younger brothers. Through his aunt Augusta Peters Inskip, who married Coleman P. Younger, an uncle of the notorious Outlaws, Ringo found himself tangentially linked to their notorious exploits. In 1858, the Ringo family made another move, this time to Gallatin. Here, they rented property from none other than the father of John W. Sheets, who later became the inaugural victim of the James Younger Gang's robbery of the Daviess County Savings and Loan Association in 1869. Tragedy struck the Ringo family in the summer of 1864, when Johnny was just 14 years old. While they were journeying through Wyoming en route to California, a devastating accident occurred. Johnny's father, Martin Ringo, met his untimely demise when he accidentally discharged a shotgun while stepping off their wagon. The buckshot entered Martin's right side and exited through the top of his head, leaving the family in mourning. They laid Martin to rest on a hillside beside the trail. Despite the challenges they faced, the Ringo family displayed the resilience characteristic of frontier life and eventually reached San Jose after a year-long sojourn at the Youngers' residence. Yet, the details of Johnny Ringo's adolescence during the period from 1864 to 1870 remain somewhat elusive, with scant documentation available. There exists an unverified assertion suggesting that Ringo may have indulged in alcohol and engaged in delinquent behavior, ultimately leading to his departure from both his family and San Jose in 1869. However, records from the San Jose Directory and the Federal California Census of 1870 indicate that Ringo was indeed present in San Jose at that time, where he was employed as a farmer. Additionally, accounts provided by his sisters later revealed that Ringo departed San Jose as a member of a harvesting team sometime between 1870 and early 1871. According to certain narratives, Ringo's descent into delinquency occurred at a later stage, notably when he faced charges for discharging his firearm in a public square in Burnett, Texas. It was during this tumultuous period that the infamous Hudu War erupted. The Hudu War. In September 1875, Johnny Ringo found himself embroiled in the Hudu War, a violent feud originating from disputes over cattle ownership between German settlers in Mason County, Texas, and American residents from neighboring areas. Ringo's involvement in the conflict stemmed not from cattle disputes, but rather from the tragic events surrounding the deaths of his close friends, Moses Baird and George Gladden. Both men fell victim to an ambush orchestrated by James Chaney, a local gambler, and executed by Mason County Sheriff John Clark. Baird was killed, and Gladden sustained serious injuries in the attack. Seeking retribution for his fallen comrades, Ringo joined forces with 7 other men on September 25th. Riding into Mason, Ringo and his accomplice, Bill Williams, made a beeline for Chaney's residence. Without warning, they confronted Chaney and fatally shot him dead. Following Chaney's demise, Ringo and Williams set their sights on another alleged collaborator in the ambush, Dave Dool. Upon their arrival at Dool's home, they demanded his presence outside. However, when Dool appeared armed at his front door, Ringo and Williams retreated in fear, abandoning their mission. After the confrontation with Cheney, Ringo and Williams returned to their group and openly boasted about their actions over breakfast. According to a report from a Texas ranger, one of them purportedly declared that they had made beef of Cheney and warned that if nobody buried him, the body would begin to decompose and emit a foul odor. In the days following Cheney's demise, the violence escalated further. 4 days later, members of the party were involved in the killing of 3 additional individuals. Despite their involvement in these killings, no arrest warrants were issued against Ringo specifically for Cheney's death. However, Ringo's run-ins with the law continued. In December, he faced 2 separate arrests on unrelated charges. The first arrest occurred in April when he was charged with disturbing the peace after firing his pistol in the middle of Burnett. Ringo was released shortly thereafter upon posting a $150 bond. The second charge against Johnny Ringo and former Texas Ranger Scott Cooley was significantly more serious. They were arrested for threatening to kill the Burnett County Sheriff and his deputy. Concerned about the possibility of their friends attempting to orchestrate a jailbreak, authorities decided to transfer Ringo and Cooley to a prison in Austin. During their transfer, Ringo garnered some attention, particularly from the Austin Statesman, which reported on January 4, 1876, that Ringo is said to have taken an active part in the Mason County War. However, there was a notable error in the newspaper coverage. Ringo's name was misspelled as Ringgold. This mistake has contributed to confusion surrounding the outlaw's identity over the years. The misspelling may have originated from translations in German newspapers. Nonetheless, official records confirm that his name was indeed John Ringo, not Ringgold. Despite the end of the Hudu War, tensions lingered in Mason County for a few more years following the conflict's resolution. Johnny Ringo and Scott Cooley were subsequently transferred once again, initially back to Burnett, before being relocated to Lampasas County to stand trial. Although both were convicted and imprisoned for making threats against law enforcement, they opted to appeal the sentence. However, they were not willing to wait until 1877 for their case to be heard. Fortunately for Ringo and Cooley, their associates agreed to take action and orchestrated a prison break in May 1876. However, Cooley reportedly passed away just a month later, adding another layer of tragedy to the already tumultuous events surrounding Johnny Ringo. Despite the media portraying Johnny Ringo as a notorious outlaw on the run, his evasion of capture lasted only a few months before he was once again apprehended and sent back to prison in Austin. Surprisingly, his earlier appeal was successful, leading to the reversal of his charges. However, this victory was short-lived, as Ringo soon found himself facing a more serious accusation: murder. His killing of Cheney had finally caught up with him. Yet this charge also faltered when no witnesses were willing to testify against him. Consequently, Johnny Ringo was released in May 1878. He settled in Loyal Valley, Mason County, shortly thereafter. In November of the same year, Ringo experienced a significant shift in his fortunes. From being an outlaw, he was offered a position as constable for Precinct No. 4 in Loyal Valley. However, it remains uncertain whether he accepted the offer or not. Soon after this, he traveled to Arizona. Life in Tombstone. Ringo's presence in Cochise County, Arizona Territory, dates back to 1879, when he arrived with his friend Joseph Graves Olney, also known as Joe Hill, with whom he had fought alongside during the Mason County War. One infamous incident occurred in December 1879 when, in a drunken state, Ringo shot Lewis Hancock in a Safford, Arizona saloon after Hancock declined a complimentary whiskey, expressing a preference for beer instead. Fortunately, Hancock survived the gunshot wound. Upon settling in Tombstone, Arizona, Ringo crossed paths with Sam Purdy, editor of the Tombstone Epitaph. Purdy later recounted a conversation with Ringo, during which Ringo expressed a fatalistic outlook, stating that he was as certain of being killed as he was of living at that moment. He ominously speculated that he might survive for a couple more years, or perhaps not even 2 days. During his time in Tombstone, Ringo gained a reputation for his volatile temper. He was also rumored to have been involved in various robberies and killings alongside the Cochise County Cowboys, a loosely organized group of outlaws. Local newspapers occasionally misidentified him as Ringold. Ringo himself referred to his occupation as that of a speculator in the 1882 Cochise County Great Register, a term often used by those engaged in various illicit activities. Confrontation with Doc Holliday. On January 17, 1882, tensions escalated between Ringo and Doc Holliday, leading to heated exchanges and the looming threat of a gunfight. Their altercation caught the attention of Tombstone's chief of police, James Flynn, who promptly intervened and arrested both men for carrying weapons within city limits. Subsequently, they were brought before Judge William H. Stillwell and fined for their violation. However, Ringo's legal troubles did not end there. Judge Stillwell took further action on outstanding charges related to a robbery in Galeyville. As a result, Ringo found himself rearrested and confined to jail for the weekend, awaiting further legal proceedings. Rumors also swirled regarding Ringo's involvement in 2 significant incidents that had shaken Tombstone's community. Some suspected him of playing a role in the ambush of Virgil Earp on December 28, 1881, an attack that left Virgil severely wounded and crippled for life. Additionally, suspicions arose surrounding Ringo's potential connection to the murder of Morgan Earp on March 18, 1882, while Morgan was innocently shooting pool in a local saloon. Johnny Ringo versus Wyatt Earp. In the years spanning 1879 and 1880, Johnny Ringo continued his streak of lawlessness, leaving chaos in his wake wherever he roamed. One notable incident involved Ringo shooting a man who dared to express a preference for beer over whiskey, showcasing Ringo's volatile temperament. Another notorious act involved Ringo holding a poker game at gunpoint, seizing the $500 held by the players for his own gain. By 1881, Ringo found himself in Tombstone, Arizona, facing trial for the poker game debacle. However, his primary concern revolved around rumors implicating him in a recent stage robbery. Blaming Wyatt Earp and his associate Doc Holliday for spreading these rumors, Ringo confronted them on the streets of Tombstone, leading to a tense standoff. As tensions mounted and firearms were drawn, a constable intervened, preventing a potential shootout. Despite the altercation, Ringo returned to Tombstone to stand trial, only to be met with familiar obstacles. Witnesses once again refused to testify against him, resulting in his release from custody. The situation in Tombstone reached a boiling point in March 1882 when Morgan Earp, brother of Wyatt Earp, was gunned down by an unknown assailant. While many suspected Ringo's involvement, contemporary records cast doubt on this theory. Testimony published in the Tombstone Epitaph indicated that Ringo expressed a desire to distance himself from the escalating feud, suggesting that he may not have been directly involved in Morgan Earp's murder. Ringo's time in Tombstone was later portrayed in the 1993 film Tombstone. As tensions continued to mount in Tombstone, Wyatt Earp and his posse faced further turmoil after being accused of killing outlaw Frank Stillwell. Fearing reprisals, Earp and his associates hastily departed from the town. In response to Stillwell's death, Sheriff John Behan rallied a group of men, including Johnny Ringo, to pursue Earp and his posse. However, the situation grew increasingly volatile when Earp's group encountered Florentino Cruz, who some believed to be Indian Charlie, one of the individuals responsible for the murder of Morgan Earp. The encounter resulted in Cruz's death, further fueling the tension in Tombstone. Meanwhile, reports circulated in Tombstone that Earp had also gunned down Curly Bill Brocius in the Whetstone Mountains. Brocius, being one of the most notorious outlaws in the region, overshadowed Stillwell's death, intensifying the conflict between lawmen and outlaws. By April 1882, the situation had escalated to the point where Earp and his associates were compelled to flee Arizona. Around the same time, Johnny Ringo also departed from Tombstone, having been cleared of all charges amidst the chaotic upheaval of law enforcement and criminal activity in the area. Despite his newfound freedom, Ringo's life took a tragic turn just 2 months later when he was discovered dead under mysterious circumstances. Death. As the 4th of July celebrations swept through Tombstone, Johnny Ringo found himself indulging in heavy drinking. 2 days later, he bid farewell to the town, stocking up on several bottles of liquor for the journey ahead. Deputy Billy Breckenridge crossed paths with Ringo near Dials Ranch in the South Pass of the Dragoon Mountains just 2 days after his departure. Recounting the encounter later, Breckenridge described Ringo as visibly intoxicated, swaying in the saddle. Despite Breckenridge's attempts to persuade him to return to the Goodrich Ranch for sobering up, Ringo, fueled by stubbornness and alcohol, insisted on continuing his journey alone. This encounter, as Breckenridge suspected, marked the last time anyone reported seeing Ringo alive. Around 3 p.m. on July 13th, ranch hands at a nearby ranch were startled by the sound of a gunshot echoing through the quiet landscape. Suicide. On July 14th, teamster James Yost stumbled upon Johnny Ringo's lifeless body while hauling wood. Ringo was discovered seated amidst a cluster of 5 large black jack oaks, which grew in a semicircle from a single root, with a large flat rock serving as his makeshift seat. The eerie scene unfolded not far from Smith's house in West Turkey Creek Valley, near Chiricahua Peak in Arizona Territory. By then, Ringo's body had already succumbed to the harsh desert heat, its pallor tinged with the telltale hue of black. Strips torn from his undershirt were wrapped around his feet, makeshift footwear in place of the boots he had lost along with his horse. Evidence suggested that Ringo had not traveled far in this makeshift gear. The grim discovery revealed a bullet hole in Ringo's right temple, with an exit wound at the back of his head. The fatal trajectory of the bullet was upward at a 45-degree angle, passing between his right eye and ear. Remarkably, Ringo's Colt single-action Army .45 revolver remained clutched in his right hand, though the hammer rested on an empty chamber. Further examination unveiled a knife cut at the base of Ringo's scalp, hinting at a potential struggle or altercation preceding his demise. His horse was located 11 days later, approximately 2 miles away, still carrying Ringo's boots tied to the saddle. Following a thorough coroner's inquest, Ringo's death was officially deemed a suicide, though lingering questions and speculations surrounded the circumstances of his demise. Ringo's final resting place lies near the base of the very tree where his body was discovered, a somber marker of the enigmatic outlaw's mysterious demise. Situated on private land, his grave remains accessible to visitors, with a gate along a nearby road offering a glimpse of the secluded site. Despite the official ruling by the coroner and contemporaneous newspaper reports citing Ringo's purported threats of suicide, alternative theories surrounding his death have persisted throughout the years. Some skeptics point to the absence of powder burns on Ringo's head, suggesting that he may have been shot from a distance. However, the coroner's jury report does not address this detail, and Ringo's body had already begun to undergo decomposition, potentially obscuring forensic evidence. In 1934, Robert Baller, a member of the coroner's jury, reaffirmed the suicide verdict, recounting the grisly scene where Ringo's lifeless body was found. Despite the passage of over half a century, Baller remained steadfast in his conviction that Ringo had taken his own life, Wyatt Her Claims. According to the controversial book I Married Wyatt Earp, purportedly based on manuscripts penned by Earp's third wife, Josephine Marcus Earp, Wyatt Earp, and Doc Holliday, accompanied by a group of friends, returned to Arizona in early July and encountered Ringo camped in West Turkey Creek Valley. Allegedly, as Ringo attempted to flee up the canyon, Earp shot him with a rifle. However, the authenticity of this account has been heavily disputed. Glenn Boyer, the author and collector who claimed to have compiled the book from Josephine Marcus Earp's manuscripts, faced skepticism from critics who questioned the credibility of his sources. Despite Boyer's refusal to produce the original manuscripts and his inconsistent explanations, some remained intrigued by the possibility of Earp's involvement. Tombstone historian Ben T. Trawick found the story plausible, citing Earp's potential motive and his proximity to the scene at the time of Ringo's death. Trawick also highlighted an intriguing detail. Near the end of his life, Earp reportedly confided in a historian about the circumstances surrounding Ringo's demise. Interestingly, Earp's purported confession to killing Ringo was not a one-time occurrence. In interviews conducted in 1888 by an agent of California historian Hubert H. Bancroft and in 1932 by Frank Lockwood, author of Pioneer Days in Arizona, Earp provided detailed accounts of the event. However, these narratives included discrepancies that diverged from known facts about Ringo's death. Adding another layer of complexity, Earp publicly denied involvement in Ringo's death during an interview with a Denver reporter in 1896, yet in private conversations he allegedly reaffirmed his role in the Outlaws' demise. Doc Holliday story. Another theory regarding the death of Johnny Ringo implicates Doc Holliday as the perpetrator. In this narrative, Holliday is alleged to have killed Ringo, echoing the accusations leveled against Wyatt Earp. However, there are variations within this theory, one of which gained prominence through the movie Tombstone. According to this variant, Holliday is said to have intervened in place of Earp when Ringo issued a challenge to a gunfight, ultimately shooting him. Records from the Pueblo County, Colorado District Court shed some light on Holliday's whereabouts around the time of Ringo's death. Holliday and his attorney were documented as appearing in court on July 11th, 14th, and 1882 to address charges of larceny. However, a writ of capias was issued for him on the 11th, indicating his absence from court proceedings on that specific date. Intriguingly, Ringo's body was discovered on the 14th, prompting speculation about Holliday's potential involvement. Further complicating matters, 6 days prior to Ringo's death, the Pueblo Daily Chieftain reported that Holliday was located in Salida, Colorado, approximately 670 miles away from Turkey Creek, Arizona. By July 18th, he was reportedly in Leadville, roughly 700 miles distant from the scene of Ringo's demise. Moreover, there was still an outstanding arrest warrant for Holliday in Arizona, stemming from his alleged involvement in the murder of Frank Stilwell. Given these circumstances, it seems unlikely that Holliday would have ventured into Arizona during this period. Michael O'Rourke theory. Another intriguing theory surrounding Johnny Ringo's death involves Michael O'Rourke, an itinerant gambler whose name has been linked to the events leading up to Ringo's demise. O'Rourke's story intertwines with Wyatt Earp. According to some accounts, O'Rourke found himself in a precarious situation in January 1881 when he was arrested in Tucson under suspicion of murdering a mining engineer named Henry Schneider. It is said that Wyatt Earp intervened to prevent O'Rourke from being lynched by a mob, a group allegedly organized and led by none other than Johnny Ringo himself. Despite Earp's intervention, O'Rourke managed to escape from jail in April 1881, thus avoiding standing trial for the murder charges. The last confirmed sighting of O'Rourke occurred in the Dragoon Mountains near Tombstone in May 1881. Described as well-mounted and equipped, he appeared to be making his exit from the territory. Following this sighting, O'Rourke's trail vanishes into the realm of unsubstantiated rumors and legends. One such legend suggests that O'Rourke harbored both a debt to Earp and a grudge against Ringo, motives that purportedly drove him to return to Arizona in 1882 to seek revenge. According to this narrative, O'Rourke tracked down Ringo and fatally shot him. While some sources find this story plausible, others raise doubts about its credibility. Frank Leslie claim. During his time in the Yuma Territorial Prison, Buckskin, Frank Leslie supposedly confessed to a guard that he was responsible for Ringo's death. However, his claim was met with skepticism by many. Some speculated that Leslie might have fabricated the confession to gain favor with Earp's associates, or to attain a degree of notoriety for himself. As the legend of Johnny Ringo continues to intrigue and captivate, the mystery surrounding his life and death only deepens. Was he a notorious outlaw, a victim of circumstance, or something else entirely? The conflicting accounts and theories keep his story alive, ensuring that Johnny Ringo remains an enigmatic figure of the Wild West. What do you think happened to Johnny Ringo? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more captivating content about Johnny Ringo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.